hurt you.
Christmas Eve, a night of lights, laughter, and family. But while the city sparkled with joy, one little girl wandered the cold streets alone, her tiny hands shivering as she searched for scraps in a trash bin. She wasn't looking for toys or gifts, she was just hoping for something to eat. A wealthy single mother stepping out of her luxury car noticed her. At first, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Who was this child? And what the millionaire mother discovered that night would change both of their lives forever. The city glowed with festive cheer that Christmas Eve. Storefronts sparkled with twinkling lights, and carolers filled the air with songs of joy. Families hurried through the streets carrying bags of gifts, their laughter echoing against the chill of winter. It was a night when most hearts were warm, but not every soul was celebrating. Amid the brightness, a little black girl wandered the darker corners of the city. Her coat was thin, frayed at the edges, and her shoes had long lost their strength against the cold. She kept her eyes on the ground, not to avoid people, but because her hunger left her too weak to lift them. Every now and then she glanced into trash bins, searching not for toys or wrapping paper, but for leftover food, something, anything, to quiet the ache inside her stomach. On the other side of town, a different story unfolded. Olivia Carter, a successful single mother and one of the city's most admired entrepreneurs, was finishing her last bit of Christmas shopping. Her life was the kind people admired from afar: luxury cars, a grand home, and a little boy who wanted for nothing. Yet beneath her polished exterior, Olivia carried her own quiet burdens. Raising her son alone after a painful divorce hadn't been easy, but she had built her fortune through resilience and hard work. That evening, Olivia loaded gifts into the trunk of her sleek black car, already planning the holiday feast that awaited at home. Her thoughts were on her son, imagining his joy when he unwrapped the surprises she had carefully chosen. But as she pulled away from the crowded streets, something caught her eye. At the corner near an alley, the movement of a small figure made her slow down. In the glow of her headlights, she saw the child, frail, shivering, and reaching into a trash bin. For a moment, Olivia thought she must be mistaken. Surely no one would let a child be out here alone on Christmas Eve. Yet as she watched, the girl pulled out a half-eaten sandwich, brushing it off with trembling hands. Olivia's heart clenched. 1,000 questions raced through her mind. Who was this girl? Where was her family? And why, on a night when the world seemed so full of joy, was she left to search for scraps in the cold? What Olivia didn't yet know was that the truth behind this little girl's struggle would change her own understanding of Christmas and of herself forever. Olivia couldn't drive away. The sight of the little girl clutching that half-eaten sandwich burned into her mind. She parked at the side of the street, her breath fogging against the cold as she stepped out of her warm car. The sharp wind bit at her cheeks, but her attention was fixed only on the child. The girl noticed her, startled like a stray animal caught under a beam of light. For a moment she froze, clutching the sandwich tightly, as if afraid it would be taken away. Her wide, fearful eyes met Olivia's, eyes that held more than hunger. They held exhaustion, loneliness, and a kind of quiet despair no child should ever carry. Olivia approached slowly, careful not to frighten her. "It's okay," she said gently, though the girl didn't answer. She looked ready to run at the slightest movement. Olivia could see the sharp outline of her bones under the thin coat, the way her shoulders hunched against the coat, unwilling to stop, unwilling even to look. To them, she was invisible, a shadow on a night meant for joy. But Olivia could not turn her back. She knelt down, her expensive coat brushing against the dirty pavement. "Are you alone?" she asked softly. The girl's lips parted, but no sound came. She only clutched the sandwich tighter and shook her head faintly, as if the very act of speaking cost too much. Olivia's heart tightened. She remembered her own son, warm at home, waiting for her return. She thought of his full plate of cookies, the gifts under the tree. And then she thought of this child, shivering in the cold, forced to search for scraps just to survive. The contrast was unbearable. "Come with me," Olivia whispered, extending her hand. "I won't hurt you. Let's get you warm." The girl hesitated, glancing at the alley as though expecting someone to appear, but no one came. With trembling hesitation, she placed her tiny, ice-cold hand into Olivia's. Inside the car, the warmth made the girl flinch, as if it were something unfamiliar. She stared at the leather seats, her dirty hands resting awkwardly in her lap. Olivia offered her a bottle of water and a small packet of cookies she had bought for her son. The girl tore into them with desperation, chewing as though she hadn't eaten in days. As the car moved through the festive streets, Olivia's mind raced. Who was this child? Where had she come from? Why was she out here alone? Every answer she imagined only deepened her concern. Finally, Olivia spoke again. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated, crumbs still on her lips, then whispered so faintly that Olivia had to strain to hear. "Amara." It was the first word she had spoken, and the sound of it sent a shiver through Olivia. Such a beautiful name for such a broken moment. "Amara," Olivia repeated softly, as if to assure the girl her name mattered. Bit by bit, over the next hour, fragments of the truth came out. Amara's mother had fallen ill months ago. Medical bills had drained what little they had. When her mother passed away, no one came to claim Amara. Relatives had turned away, saying they couldn't take in another mouth to feed. The foster system had placed her in temporary care, but she had run away from a cruel home, preferring the streets to more abuse. Every word struck Olivia like a blade. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles pale against the leather. The weight of Amara's story pressed down on her chest until it was almost hard to breathe. The city around them glittered with Christmas lights, but for Olivia, the glow seemed hollow now. She thought of her own struggles, of raising her son alone, of nights she had cried behind closed doors, unsure how to keep moving forward. But compared to this child's pain, her burdens felt small. By the time they reached Olivia's home, Amara had dozed off, her tiny body slumped against the seat, exhaustion claiming her at last. Olivia carried her inside, her heart breaking at how light she was, as if hunger had stolen her weight. She laid her gently on the couch, covering her with a soft blanket. As Olivia stood there, watching Amara sleep, she realized something profound. This Christmas Eve was no accident. She hadn't simply stumbled upon a child in need. She had been placed here, at this moment, for a reason. And the truth of that reason was about to shock her in ways she never imagined. Olivia barely slept that night. While her son dreamed upstairs, she sat in the dim glow of the Christmas tree, watching Amara sleep soundly on the couch. The child looked so fragile under the blanket, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. For Olivia, it was impossible to reconcile the sight of this little girl, so innocent, so desperately in need, with the reality that she had been scavenging trash for food only hours earlier. Morning arrived with the smell of cinnamon and cocoa. Olivia's son, Ethan, bounded down the stairs, eyes wide at the gifts under the tree. But he stopped short when he saw Amara curled up on the couch. His eyes darted to his mother in silent question. Olivia placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "She's our guest today." Ethan nodded, his childish curiosity softened by something deeper, an instinctive compassion. As the day unfolded, Olivia tried to make Amara feel part of the warmth. She offered her food, clothes, even a small gift from under the tree. At first, Amara seemed overwhelmed, clutching each item as though it might vanish if she blinked. But slowly, she smiled, her first true smile since Olivia had met her. Yet Olivia could not rest without answers. She gently pressed Amara again, this time with patience and care. "Sweetheart," she asked, "was there no one looking for you?" Amara's smile
No one who
faltered.
might be worried about
She
where you
lowered her
are?
gaze, her small hands twisting the hem of her borrowed sweater. I used to have someone, she whispered. But they left. Olivia leaned closer. Who, Amara? Who left you? The child hesitated, tears welling in her eyes, and then she spoke the words that shook Olivia to her core. My daddy. He said he couldn't take care of me after Mama got sick. He left me with strangers, but they didn't want me either. Her voice cracked, the weight of abandonment pressing through every syllable. He promised he would come back. He never did. Olivia's heart clenched. She felt her own breath catch, as if the air had been knocked out of her. The room seemed to blur for a moment, the blinking lights of the tree suddenly harsh against her tear-filled eyes. But then came the truth she never expected. With trembling hands, Amara pulled something from the pocket of her ragged coat, an old photograph, folded and worn. She handed it to Olivia. Olivia opened it carefully, smoothing out the creases. The faded picture showed a smiling couple with a baby between them. The woman was thin, but her eyes glowed with joy. The man beside her looked strikingly familiar. Olivia blinked, her chest tightening. She had seen that face before, in meetings, on the cover of magazines, in the headlines about one of the city's most controversial figures. It was Amara's father, a man Olivia had once worked with, a millionaire businessman who had vanished from the public eye after a scandal, a man who had money, power, and influence, yet had abandoned his only child to the streets. The shock was almost unbearable. Olivia's mind reeled. She had expected tragedy, hardship, maybe even neglect, but not this. Not a story of betrayal at the hands of someone who had every resource to provide care and yet chose to walk away. Amara's small voice pulled her back. I just wanted a family again, she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. I just wanted someone to care. At that moment, Olivia realized this wasn't just about charity or kindness. It was about justice. It was about giving this child not just shelter for one night, but the love and stability she had been cruelly denied. She pulled Amara into her arms, holding her tightly as if to shield her from every hurt the world had inflicted. Olivia's tears mingled with the child's as she whispered, You're not alone anymore. Not tonight. Not ever again. For the first time in years, Amara's sobs softened into quiet breaths of relief. And for Olivia, a new purpose had been born, not out of pity, but out of an unshakable sense of destiny. This Christmas, she hadn't just witnessed suffering, she had been chosen to change it. The hours that followed were unlike any Christmas Olivia had ever known. The house was filled with laughter, warmth, and the scent of holiday food, but beneath it all, there was something even deeper. Healing. Amara, who had arrived as a frightened child in torn clothes, now sat at the table with a plate piled high, her cheeks flushed, not just from the heat of the fire, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time: belonging. Ethan treated her not as a stranger, but as if she were a sister he had always known. He showed her his toys, shared his cookies, and even insisted she open one of his gifts. The sight of Amara's hesitant joy, the way her eyes lit up as she unwrapped a doll, was enough to bring Olivia to tears. But Olivia's thoughts kept circling back to the photograph. The image of Amara's father, the man who had abandoned her despite his wealth, haunted her. She knew him personally, had seen him flaunt his success in boardrooms, yet here was proof of the emptiness behind that facade. For Olivia, the contrast was striking. She had fought tooth and nail to provide for her son, juggling late nights and endless responsibilities, never once considering walking away. And yet this man, with all his riches, had discarded his daughter like she was nothing. The injustice of it burned within her, but instead of bitterness, it ignited resolve. She realized that Amara's past, painful as it was, did not have to define her future. Olivia had the means, the heart, and the determination to give this little girl what she truly needed: a home, a family, and a chance to heal. That night, after the children had fallen asleep, Olivia sat quietly by the fire. She thought of her own struggles, her victories, and the faith that had carried her through. Then she thought of Amara, of fate bringing their paths together on this particular Christmas Eve. She didn't see it as coincidence anymore. She saw it as a calling. The next morning, Olivia began making calls, not to shame Amara's father, but to start the process of ensuring the child would never be lost again. Papers could be filed, systems could be navigated, but most importantly, love could be given freely. Christmas Eve had started in the shadows of a cold alley, digging through trash for survival. But it ended in the warmth of a home, embraced by a woman who saw her not as a burden, but as a gift. And for Olivia, the millionaire single mom, the holiday brought the greatest revelation of all. True wealth isn't measured by what you keep, but by what you give. As the fire crackled and the tree lights glowed, one thought lingered like a silent prayer. Sometimes, the family we are meant to have finds us in the most unexpected ways.